I understand.
All right. Good evening. Welcome, everybody. This is the General Committee meeting for March the 12th. Welcome and thank you for joining us. And I am joined with our distinctive Vice Mayor, Jim Waters.
Jim Waters, Ward 6.
Good
Vice
to have
Mayor,
you.
thank you.
And our other chairman is
Bob
Mr.
Garza, Ward 3.
Welcome. Thank you for being here. And today with us, we have Amanda Grider, and she is our HR director. And Amanda, if you would please just start introducing yourself and we'll go around the room.
Sure. I'm Amanda Grider. I'm the HR manager.
Oh, I'm Rachel Collins, Ward 5 Alderman.
Karen Dixon, Ward 4 Alderman.
Mayor Jamie Clary.
Terry Goodwin, Alderman, Ward 4.
Eddie Robertson, Ward 6. Mark Bergdorf, Ward 1.
Here's more.
We could almost have a BOMA meeting. All the aldermen are here. And I meant to ask anybody that wanted to sign up for citizen comments. We do have a sign-up sheet. Okay, well, I am glad everyone's here. Thank you for the introductions. And I would like to accept our agenda for tonight.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a proper second from Mr. Waters and a proper motion from Mr. Waters and a second from Mr. Garza. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And have y'all had a chance to review the minutes from last month's meeting?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, any questions on the minutes?
No questions.
Okay,
Move to accept.
I have a proper motion to accept our minutes
I was not here.
and I will second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And we have one abstention.
Thank you.
Okay. We have accepted our agenda and approved the minutes. And I'm going to move on to citizen comments. I don't have anyone signed up, so we will move on to ordinances and resolutions. Our first ordinance is 2024-04, an amendment, or is that amending?
We're amending the code, but it's a totally new ordinance.
And amending the Hendersonville Municipal Code, Title II, Chapter 1, Sections 2 through 101, relative to appointing members to various boards and commissions. Mayor Clary, you are sponsoring this. Would you like to update the committee
Sure.
on this ordinance, please?
Sure. The best explanation I can give you, if you turn to page 10 in the staff report, I'm going to read you what the code is currently. And this is the reason I feel like I need to change it. The board of mayor and aldermen shall be notified in writing by the mayor at least 3 regular meetings prior to the expiration of the term of any member of any board or commission appointed by the meetings prior to the expiration of the term of any member, by the board of mayor and aldermen. Each city alderman shall then inform the mayor in writing of their nominations at least 1 day before the agenda is mailed to the second regular meeting. The mayor will then provide each alderman with a list of nominations along with the agenda for the second regular meeting. The expired appointment position shall not be placed on the agenda, but will be placed on the third regular agenda, so the alderman will have at least 2 weeks to consider nominations. Should no nomination be presented at the time of the third meeting following notification of an opening, the opening may be filled without regard to ward representation restrictions. In this event, nominations may be made a part of the record of the third meeting or at the next regular meeting, and the nomination process shall be deemed to be at a stage of second meeting as described above. Election to a board commission may then occur at the next regular meeting following nomination. That's why I feel like we need a new, a new ordinance there. So what I'm trying to do is so there's a couple things here. First, I feel like the text there is a little bit confusing, more a little bit confusing. The other thing is that we tend to deal with appointments constantly. What I'd rather do is deal with them quarterly, and I think we can do a better job. Is all of y'all will be notified here this next quarter. Here are appointments that are expiring that you're responsible for, and you've got a month to get us somebody to fill that. If you don't do that, then I'm going to contact you and say, hey, we've got somebody over here that might want to fill that position for your ward, and then a month later is when we vote on them. So you see down there that the 4 times we do that in quarterly, and that should just help us out. We've got some vacancies right now, just basically because I think it's confusing and people didn't know those vacancies were coming up. But I think this will just move it along and make it simpler for me and for the aldermen to figure out time and keep those seats filled.
That does make sense. On this section 1, the first paragraph is been strike through.
Mhm.
Are we doing away with that
That's basically what I just read.
section? Okay. Are we going to reword that or just eliminate it altogether?
We're going to eliminate that altogether. It is really handled. Most of that is handled really in
2.
what follows. Yeah, in 2.
Okay.
So.
Well, that's good. It was very wordy, so I'm glad that we're cleaning that up. And I think quarterly nominations are more efficient.
And I want you to understand also that there are no fewer nominations by the alderman with this. There are no more nominations by the mayor with this.
Okay.
I do want to point you to item 7. We don't really have a very well explained grounds for removal. You'll see that on page 7, number 7. That I just need to draw your attention to that as well.
Okay. Do we have a list of items why someone should be removed?
It's just failure to attend 3 of any 6 consecutive meetings, or they're no longer qualified to be in that seat. And really what that's for is that's for somebody who moves out of their ward, or for somebody who's filling a seat with qualifications such as the Board of Zoning Appeals or so we've got some people that are qualified on the ADA board based on a disability or based on construction background, that kind of thing. If they no longer qualify under that expectation, they need to be removed and somebody
Okay.
else fill that.
What if someone is redistricted?
That happens too. So we're dealing with that right now from redistricting 2020. And we do our best to keep the people who want to stay through no fault of their own that they ended up in a different ward.
Okay.
We're not always successful at that. But what the nice thing about that is most of our boards, we have at-large appointments. So if somebody gets redistricted, we look at, okay, could they be an at-large? Could they be a mayoral appointee?
Okay. And then on page 11, we have a list of all the committees and the membership numbers, and none of that's changing, correct?
I don't think so. Yeah, everything's the same.
Okay. Committee, do you all have any questions?
I do.
Okay, you go.
I support what you just gave us here, but I've had a thorn in my side for 12 years now about the liaison position.
Okay.
I know I was on the beer board for two terms, and I was able to ask questions to the defendant that came in for a beer board violation, but I couldn't vote. I'm on the BZA now. I asked them questions about the construction, but I can't vote. My problem is why can't, and you've told me before, and I appreciate your answer, but I don't accept it.
Okay.
But why can't a liaison vote on their committee?
So we have one that can, and that's Michael Martin.
I understand
That's the
that.
only one.
Why does he have the right to vote and I don't?
Because that's what the Board of Mayor and Aldermen decided
Where?
a long time ago.
I've looked and looked and looked and
Yeah.
I've looked. I can't find it either.
So when they wrote this into the code, they decided that the members of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen are just liaisons. We can change that. But if we do, you as on the Board of Zoning Appeals, you have to do training.
I don't care.
Okay. Same thing with.
Let me say this. I'm not doing my job as a liaison, just sitting there, okay?
Okay.
I can get off of it and stay home
Okay.
for that day. But I love it. I love the beer board. And we had some great things from the late Judge Lincoln. We had some great decisions for people that violated the beer board to minors, which I don't know why we don't still have the police doing that, going to these restaurants and these stores.
We might.
Huh?
We might.
That's on chickens.
Huh?
Mike's on chickens. No,
I'm not gonna tell you whether we do or don't have that going on.
why did it stop?
Why did what stuff?
The police officers checking these.
I don't know that it has, but I'm not gonna say publicly if we're doing it or not.
Okay,
We can talk later.
pardon?
We can talk later.
It's in the paper from time to time.
This is a general committee. And I think we need to talk about that, and we need to talk about the liaison being able to vote. Now, do I have to sponsor that to bring up to Boma?
Somebody does. If you want to make an amendment to what I'm proposing
No,
in front of them,
no, I don't think, I'm not opposed to anything in this. I'm just, when I get to page 7,
Mhm.
but non-voted. That's all I'm interested in.
I'll ask Lance if it's that easy to change it.
Maybe.
Well, I'll leave it up to the committee. They may not approve what I'm saying. I don't know.
I don't know how I feel, to be honest with you.
Let me just say that my opinion, I'm not on one of those boards that require voting. I'm on beautiful Hendersonville. So basically it's just a lot of discussion and there's really not votes that are official to the city. So I don't have any skin in the game, but I respect what you're saying.
Do you speak to them in the meeting? Do you talk to them?
Usually they ask me questions, but I'm not dealing with a third party like you are. You know,
And here's the reason I don't know how I feel about that. I'm not a liaison to any committee. You guys are.
right. But yeah, they ask me questions because sometimes I have to get involved with the city, which is my job, I think.
I think it's sad take me out of the picture. When you sit there and at a beer board or BCA, whatever I'm on, and you just know that guy is wrong for selling beer to that minor,
Sure.
but I can't vote, and the committee that's on that board, they vote. Sometimes it's voted down, sometimes it's voted up. The liaison could have the deciding vote in something like this. So Mayor, that'd be my opinion, and I'd like to see either Lance bring it back or the board bring it back.
You sound like you're.
Well, I think the beer boards, I'm the liaison to the beer board now. And
Oh, are you?
yeah, and it's a great team of people that are on the beer committee. They're very well trained. And we have a lot of state requirements that we have to meet throughout our meetings. And I don't know that there might be a state requirement that it is all citizens that vote. And I'm tending to lean toward, if we have a committee of citizens, that it should just be the vote from the citizens that are giving their time. But I've got to think on it because I've never really actually mulled this over before, but I need to think about it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, myself was on planning and I did have a vote. And then I was moved to parks and I wasn't able to vote. So it was quite an adjustment. But I think the Parks Board is probably the best committee in the city as far as what they're doing. And planning has a big role as well. But that is something that we do need to bring up for discussion. So thank you.
Could I add one more thing to that?
Yes.
Like right now, planning, Michael can vote. It may not be an across the board vote. Just like right now, planning can do it. There's an exception for planning. Maybe it is beer and BZA. I don't know. I'm just saying it doesn't have to be an across the board vote necessarily. I mean, no disrespect to, my committee. I may end up in another committee next year, but right now there's nothing for me to vote on.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
so on the planning commission, I believe that's a state statute. So it says what the makeup has to be.
Oh.
And one is either the mayor or appointee that steps in for the mayor. And then the rest of them are the mayor's appointees. And then also there's a representative from the elected body of Boma. And so I'm pretty sure that's a state statute.
You're saying that that's a state
I believe it is.
for that particular committee?
Or just planning
For
commission?
the planning commission.
That's what I'm talking about, your
Yes.
committee.
Yes.
Could you provide that to me?
Yeah, we'll email
Not
it.
that I doubt you, but I'd like to see it.
I think it's 13411, but Grant will send that to you tomorrow.
Thank you.
And that may be why that's the only voting member of a committee,
Maybe something
because
in
it
there.
is state.
The BZA is different. It doesn't set aside and say that has to be that, but then I don't know if it can be added to it. It may be, but the planning that's actually in the state statute, but we'll get that to you.
One more thing.
Yes, Mayor.
So initially, when I talked to Lance about this, we also talked about creating alternates because we have some meetings, we have some bodies, we only have 3 and some that are only 5 people. And occasionally when you have a couple absences, that's a big deal. That can really have an impact. And so Lance said that he would look into it. If we pass this, could we have an alternate to that committee? That would be somebody who shows up, sits through the whole meeting, and if somebody needs to recuse themselves or somebody needs to leave for something, that person then sits in. It's just like an alternate juror. We've talked about that, and he's doing some research to see if that could happen. Quite possibly, Alderman might be the alternate.
It's a good point. I hadn't thought about that.
Neither had I until you brought it
I
up.
mean, sometimes they leave early.
Yeah.
For some other reason,
They,
and
because
you
they
don't
run
have
long.
enough to vote. Pardon?
Because they run long. That's-
Thank you. That's a good idea.
So that's just an idea because of the discussion.
Yeah. I
That's
hadn't
worth
thought
looking
of that. Thank you.
Well, that's a good discussion.
Okay.
Mayor, will this be cleaned up when it goes to BOMA?
Yes, what you'll see is you'll see the the version with the lines going through it. We'll make sure that you have a clean version. as well.
Okay.
It's already done, isn't it? Right here. The lines are through it.
Okay, any more discussion on ordinance 2024-04, amending the Hendersonville Municipal Code?
Good.
Okay,
Now make a motion to send it to Bowman.
okay, I have a motion from Mr.
And a
Waters.
second from
One other
myself.
item, if I could. If
Yes,
y'all have any suggestions to make this better, feel free to let me know.
we definitely will. We have a proper second from
Yes.
Mr. Garza. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That passes unanimously and as a positive recommendation to BOMA. Okay, our next item is ordinance 24-06, an ordinance rezoning 4.84 acres located at the intersection of Saundersville Road and Windcrest Way from suburban residential, low density SR1 to general commercial plan development GCPD to be known as Windcrest Commercial Plaza. Have y'all had a chance to look at that? That's a large
I could
Item.
probably help you out.
in our packet.
Yeah, so I'd like to withdraw that. The applicant has asked to not move forward. The reason that I am the sponsor is because the state of Tennessee requires that these type applications, rezoning, some other big ones, have to be given an opportunity to be heard by the legislative body. I don't favor this, but we have to get it in front of the board, and that requires a sponsor. That's why my name is on there. However, I'll turn it over to Keith as far as what he knows.
Yeah, the applicant, after consideration and after full involvement with the neighborhood and the planning commission, and with a negative recommendation from the planning commission, has determined that it will not pursue the rezoning. But they have shared with us that they'll look at doing something, and maybe in the near future, putting something forward that's more representative of what they feel like the neighborhood has expressed through this process. If I could just share one real quick thing, the public hearing that we had on this last week, the Windcrest neighborhood did an excellent job of stating their case, and they handled themselves with decorum and dignity, and they expressed their passion about their neighborhood and their community, and did so in a way I just want to note, because it's noteworthy. As a group, they noted, which what we all know is what's special and great about this community, and they touted that and explained that. And then it was just this one thing, though, that they felt like was going to put that at risk. And that's somewhat different to things over the past years. were groups that were against something, mostly came in about what all was wrong all over the city, and then didn't want this as well. But this neighborhood and this group did it a little bit differently, and I just wanted to note that, and it speaks very well for that neighborhood, their passion for the community, and their respect for the process as well. So.
Okay. I did have a question on that. Going forward, would the developers just consider building homes on those vacant lots or those two parcels instead of anything commercial?
That's what currently the zoning is, SR1, single family residential 1. So you could do 20,000 square foot lots there. But I don't know what the developers want to do. That's what's by right. If they wanted to do something different, for example, for office development, like was across the street, it was expressed at the meeting by a lot of the public that, please consider something like that instead of the commercial stuff. So that could be a possibility, but I don't know exactly what direction they're going to go on that.
I
Okay.
can tell you that I've spoken with them before and after, and they don't want to do residential. They would like to see, well, of course, the landowner would like to have more money for his property than residential.
So the developer is not interested in residential?
No.
Okay. Maybe some Class A office space. Would that be more of a,
I can't remember the classes.
Yeah, it would just nice office space.
okay.
But that would have to still be something that's not allowed by right. It would still have to go the same process that stopped here tonight, or stopped when they stopped the process. They'd have to initiate that process again with a different development.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the citizens coming forward and expressing their concerns and making comments. I certainly welcome that. Okay, so do we need to do anything on this just other than it's been withdrawn? Okay.
Okay.
All right, so I think that would end the discussion on it. Let's move on to other agenda items. And we do have a discussion for planning notification process. That is item number 3. And I Keith, did you want to walk us through the new, I don't know what you would call this, zoning enforcement?
Yeah, that was kind of zoning enforcement.
Okay.
I can start with a brief kind of overview of what we do. And then, this has been a focus here over the last several months. Kind of looking at this, and it's here this evening just to kind of give an overview of the process and kind of an overview of some samples, some letters of the type of letters that we send out. And then really just, I think, a request from BOMA for us and citizens for us to look at our processes, what kind of letters that we're sending out and things like that. And we have done an exhaustive review, and Grant Green is here this evening. Tim Nicholson, our zoning enforcement officer, his son is getting married this week, so we congratulate him. So he couldn't be here this evening, but Grant is here. And just wanted to give an overview. So with zoning enforcement, really what that is like, hey, you've got too many chickens, or you got a rooster, or you got a potbelly pig or a horse, and you don't have the proper size property. That's one of the things. Another thing could be, hey, you're operating a business out of your house, and you haven't got your proper permission for a home occupation permit. It could be, hey, you're putting vehicles or cars out on the right of way, and you got to move those. Some others could be things where somebody is operating. I'll try to think of some recent things. Somebody's operating a concession stand near our park, and they don't actually have permission to do that. Those things would be zoning violations, as well as somebody has built something and they didn't meet the requirements or get a permit to do that, and they didn't get approval. So those are examples of the zoning enforcement things that we do, and we're quite active. So cities overall have very similar guidelines and restrictions that we do here in Hendersonville, but Grant and I are aware of a lot of other different cities, but our city really holds those things very dear to the enforcement, and to make sure there's consistency and fairness. So our commitment to the city's commitment to enforcement has not just happened in the last few years. This has been a consistent thing through the years. So in a lot of ways, we enforce a lot of different things across the board, a lot different than a lot of other cities do. But we do so with fairness and consistency. And then what happens through this whole process, and I've just kind of listed a couple of examples of like, hey, we got a neighbor that called, or somebody from some citizen that called to complain on something, and we have plenty of that every day, all day. And then we follow up with those things. And then there's some things that our zoning enforcement officer is out and sees. So it's a mixed bag. And sometimes it's people that have complaints, and sometimes it's people that have complaints, and it goes through an alderman, and then y'all direct them to us, or you might even let us know. And then we go out and take a look. And then other things, we're just driving around and we see stuff. Just the obvious stuff. We don't go really super looking at everything, but anything you can see from the street, we're looking at that. And then that would engage and start a letter. And so basically, the first start of the process is, for example, let's just use that Tim was out and he was driving and he saw some front yard fence that was obviously of the wrong material and looked like it just had been put up. And so from that, he'd document that. And then, if somebody was out, he would actually probably talk to them. But most of the time, somebody's not out in the yard, or there's not a crew finishing the fence or something, but sometimes there is. But most of the time there's not. So
Are
then
you talking about Indian Lake Road today?
Yeah, we just got off the phone with them. We're getting that resolved. So that's a good example.
Wow.
We've had,
I almost ran off the road.
yeah, we've had about 20 calls. For that. So that's some, yeah. So we're going to get that resolved. The people, the residents just didn't know, and they're going to work with us on that.
So let me be sure, because I think I've been missing the boat.
Yeah.
None of this comes under codes. It comes under you,
That's
under
correct.
planning.
That's correct.
And I've been calling codes on some things.
It's okay. There are some things.
And
Like
he calls me back and says,
he sends them to us.
yeah.
Yeah. So we get a lot of those different things. But there are sometimes somebody's building a building. But when you're building a building and you don't have a permit, you really got two violations. Sometimes codes takes care of it if it's a bigger thing. If it's a smaller thing, then we take care of it in zoning, because when you get a building permit, you get a building permit, but you also get a zoning permit too. So you're violating two different things.
My problem on Ward 6 is I've got one, he's converted his garage into his mother's living quarters that's coming to live with him.
Yeah.
And I think that's still a battle between codes and
That probably is. More than likely from zoning, it's probably okay. But he could have some code issues.
Yeah.
And so we deal more with setbacks and uses and things like that. And then codes deals with the actual physical building that's being constructed. So we have all these different ways that might trigger, oh, okay, we need to check into this. And then we would send a letter that would, and the thing about our letters are, it's not like we have general letters that are examples of previous letters that we've sent, but it's not a template letter. So we don't send out a template letter. Because as you can imagine, there's so many different varieties of different things. The letters are somewhat more personalized, and sometimes we'll get information, and if we, the letter will be a little bit different if we can't validate exactly what the complaint is. Sometimes, like vacation rental, we didn't see it. We can't really document it on, on the web, and we just got a complaint. So in that case, we may just send out a letter, to me and say, hey, Keith, at my house, and say, we got a complaint, and, just to let you know, this is not allowed to do. And then in those cases where that's misdirected and it's just false information, which actually is very rare. Most of the time, nobody necessarily falsely, got the wrong information or the wrong address. It happens rarely. But in that case, it would just be let that homeowner or person that's living there, letting them know, hey, this is something you can't do. And then they'll give us a call or they'll email us and let us know, yeah, I'm not doing anything like that. If people saw a bunch of cars, I've had my family over here and we had a funeral, and they've been over here for about a week, but there's nothing like that going on. And then that will just go away. But if there was something and even that was false information, we'll end up getting another complaint, and the chances are we'll figure out exactly what's going on. In a lot of different instances, our inspector goes out before he sends a letter, he takes a look, to see what's going on. But we go further than that. We look at social media, Facebook, we look on the web and do searches to see, is there anything that would validate, what the complaint is. And so we do that for a lot of different things.
I think you're getting close to these weekend rentals, aren't you?
Yeah.
When you start talking like that.
Well, we got a new thing coming up, and I don't want to promote it, but there's something new coming up that's a new vacation rental type of thing that really deals with dogs.
Dogs?
So that's something new that we're having to deal. But you never know. I mean, there's always something going on. But basically, through this whole process, what we try to do is we try to be informative with our initial letters. And then to be honest with you, it will get progressively. So once we're saying in a letter, hey, if you don't resolve this by this date, then you will receive a citation. Now we're starting to become more rigid. And then by the time we actually issue a citation, we're completely rigid.
Yeah.
And so by the time that happens, we last year in 2023, we sent out 1,285 letters.
Really?
That's a lot of letters.
Yeah.
So as you can imagine, that's a lot going on. And we get used in a lot of different ways. At the end of the day, it's all pretty positive for the quality of life of what we're doing. But as you can imagine, people also, we're here to respond to the citizens. But a lot of times neighbors will use us in a very aggressive manner toward their neighbors. So they'll let us know something. They've got some kind of argument with their neighbor, and the neighbor actually does have a violation.
Yeah.
And then they'll be on us to do that. One thing that people don't realize is if there is a legitimate issue that is going on, and then we get to that point where we're saying, hey, you need to stop this, or you're going to get cited, like right around in that point. What a lot of people don't understand is once we get to that point, we never let go. And we never, and that's why we want to make sure by the time we're citing somebody, we've got a very solid case. And I can't think of one that we've lost. And we're in court every month.
Does that go to municipal here?
Yeah.
Hendersonville?
With Judge
Edwards, yeah.
now, and Lincoln before.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
Lincoln. And so we do that. So, it's part of the zoning that isn't, it's not thrilling. And, and it's not easy to tell somebody, hey, you're in violation of this, or you might be in violation of that. As you can imagine, even if you were in violation of something, if you get a letter from my office, or I talk to you and explain that you're in violation, even if you are, a lot of times that can generate some pretty upset feelings,
Yeah.
because what people want to know is, well, everybody else is doing it. Here's a list of, and we do get a lot of work from that. If we cite somebody for something, not cite them, but we bring something to their attention and they correct it, they'll give us 6 or 7 addresses. And then those people want to know hey, who told on me? It was just somebody that went out after they got brought attention they had to do something, and then they go out and let us know. But the thing about it is, once we know, it's not something like in the office, it's not something like, oh, well, we got this information. We're just not going to, we might deal with half of this stuff and half of this stuff we don't. Anything that we get, we do look at it. And if it has validity, we'll at least start the process. And, but the majority, the overwhelming majority of the people that we send letters to, they take care of it in a very short period of time. There's very few hanger-oners that are just want to fight it to the bitter end, or force us to then, cite them. And in citing things, we've had several properties. The fines and fees, it can get costly, and it just went up. So it's $200 or $300, when you get a citation. But when you get that and then you still don't correct it, then, we don't just cite it every month, we cite it every week. And then if that continues to go on, we can't let that, continue.
Right.
Then we will cite it every weekday. And those start adding up. And then when they add up, to a considerable amount, then we file liens on the property. And we've done that quite a bit where we have that. But that's that as far as percentage wise, that's a very small percentage. The good thing is, we live in a great community, and we live in a great community that, keep in mind, when somebody's in violation or possibly in violation of something, doesn't mean they're bad people, or most of the time they don't even know that there was a violation for that. And in the majority of the cases, we've got such good people here, they correct it very, very quickly. And then we try to be as sensitive as we can. So most of the time when somebody gets a letter or something, they'll call us immediately. And most of the time, a lot of time, they'll come up to the office, and then we'll figure out with them, well, here's what's going on and here's how you can correct it. Or, and we give people time too. So if somebody's just notified of something, we're going to give them some time to correct the situation, because we're not wanting to cite them and go down that, because we know once we get down to that more rigid path, then it's locked in. We're gonna have to move forward. As you know, with the aldermen here, when folks are complaining about different things, if as a city we weren't fair and consistent and on top of it with our enforcement efforts, there'd be more complaints about people that we weren't doing what we're doing. But generally speaking, and I think Grant can probably echo it, generally speaking, even though, of course, nobody's happy to get a letter from us, the majority of people correct it, and really there really isn't a fight about it. They just, okay, I didn't know that, but now we'll take care of that situation. So that's great.
I noticed on this last citation letter, and these are very good, clean examples, but Timothy's email is omitted. Is that on purpose?
That may have just been accidentally. I haven't crossed out the
Okay.
names of people that were on there, because those are real letters.
Oh, okay.
So I had X's and.
Because I noticed his email is on all the other letter
Let me
examples.
see. Yeah, it could have just been, I had him do that, and that could have got removed on one. Oh, is it the last one?
Yes.
Yes, that was just when he did all the X's and stuff, it may have gotten removed. But that email's all on there.
Okay.
And then as well as, the number is there for City Hall.
Right.
But one of the things that we're having Tim change is we're having him change the letter where we clearly put on there a number to call. Nobody has any problem finding the number to call, but we're going to add on there, in addition to the email address, we're going to add our phone number. So
Okay.
they can give us a call, just so it's
That-
easier.
Makes sense.
Mr. Chairman?
Sure does.
Point to note here, we have one person here, a citizen here, would like to speak, but she didn't sign for citizens' comments. Can we change the rules and let her
We
speak?
can certainly suspend the rules.
Okay.
Yeah.
No problem with that?
No, not at all.
You can sit up here.
Yes, please do.
So I was one to.
Yes, your name and address, please.
Larissa Moore, 107 McBratney Drive, Hendersonville.
Thank you.
So I received one of these letters. The process that I've asked to change is I wasn't contacted at all, except this letter. I emailed on October 18th to Tim Nicholson. I also include Jamie Clary, Mike Martin, Mr. Peterson. I included them all. I didn't get a response
Yeah, that would.
until almost
yeah.
November.
Yeah, that wouldn't be something that the alderman would necessarily respond
But
to.
Tim didn't respond either. I didn't get a response from anyone in your department. My other complaint is, in the letter, you don't explain the process at all. It doesn't tell me that I have 3 chances before I get a citation.
Right.
That's not in the letter. So as somebody who's never gotten a letter before, doesn't know the process, and no one contacted me to ask me, was this going on? Tim said he drove by, he didn't see anything, but he has an obligation to send the letter to let me know the complaint. And everything in here that was sent to me is 100% false. The yard sales, I know about the yard sales. I've spoken to everyone in my current neighborhood who has no idea about the yard sales. But there's 376 pages for every citizen in Hendersonville to try to dig to find yard sales? How do you know if you don't look for it? How do you know if somebody doesn't tell you? If you just moved to Hendersonville today, you've got this binder of rules to follow. How would I know that?
Well, can I just ask this question? If I would have gotten a letter, even though someone didn't contact me later, my first response would be to go to City Hall myself. That's what I would do to find out what am I doing wrong and who am I doing it to. And that's got nothing to do with you. That's got something to do with a lot of people I deal with in my ward, right? So that's an avenue too. You can, say, wait a minute, I got a letter here, and I go to City Hall and go, okay, where do I go now? Send me to park, send me to code, send me to wherever, so I can figure out what's going on here. So yes, I understand your dilemma, but I think we as citizens have a responsibility to follow up to.
Which I did, and
Okay.
I called Tim myself because I hadn't heard anything, and I wanted to know the process. Because again, it's not in this letter.
But yeah, I'm sure I don't know if it is or isn't. I don't mean that. I mean,
And that's the part that I want changed. The people that get this letter need to know what does this mean? What's the process? I didn't even know I would get a letter for that.
Yeah, I think the what normally happens is somebody would contact us, and then they would talk to Tim, or they talk to somebody in our office that was familiar with it, and then discuss, oh, here's what this is. Let's see the letter, and then it could be me or Grant. And you're right. A lot of people come up and ask. Some people call.
I've done it.
Yeah, some people call when
before I was an alderman.
I think the thing about like your October email would be, what did the October email say? And I know it included a lot of people other than just Tim, but did you directly contact anybody in our office or Tim?
I did. I called Tim. I sent the email. I
What-
didn't hear from him. I called.
Right.
And I got a response. I emailed October 27th to let him know that I had complied with the letter.
Right.
And then I didn't hear from him until after that. And the letter was sent to me on October 11th. I emailed on October 18th because that was the day that I got the letter. I emailed the day I got the letter.
And you called Mr. Nicholson on November the 29th. And then that's when you actually
Got a hold
spoke
of
with.
him.
Did you try to call him anytime before that?
I had not tried to call him before that because I had emailed. I had called that day.
Right.
He had called back. I missed that call.
Do you have the email that you sent on October the 27th?
Yep.
So I can see exactly what that says.
And he apologized for not getting back with me. He said that there's 65,000 residents and he's only one person. And he does his best to try to keep up with phone calls and emails. He was amazing on the phone. He was great to explain the process to me.
Was this email to him after you had come and spoke at one of the BOMA
I
meetings?
started speaking at October 23rd.
Yeah.
Was the first meeting.
Okay, and I think that might have been a little bit of that, because.
I'd like to see that email.
Because
that I
prior
was-
to reaching out to Mr. Nicholson, then,
I wasn't copied on that. I need to see an email that I was copied on.
This is the one that you were
And
talking
and if I did, I would forward that. Alderman, it is not our place to respond to city business. We are not going to say anything.
Yeah.
The staff will do that for us, unless there's a situation where you bring it up to a committee and file a formal complaint, and then we can certainly hear about it at that time. Because this is October 18th. And then for you to speak out in BOMA and say, I contacted every one of you as aldermen, which that's inaccurate because you did not. So just because our names are on the bottom of this letterhead doesn't mean we were copied. Bill Kahn Properties was the only person copied on this letter. So next time, just make sure that you have accurate information before you say, every one of you got my letter.
Everyone was copied on the email that I sent on December 7th.
Well,
I
this
think-
is in
yeah.
October.
Yes.
I think what, I
And,
think
and
what.
I get that, but my issue isn't what was in the letter. My issue is
And I appreciate
asked
you bringing that up
for
because
him to
these
change
new
it.
letters now have please take the necessary steps. And it spells those out in these letters. So I appreciate you bringing that to our attention because now we have had an opportunity to go through and revise all of our citation letters.
And that has been helpful. I mean, it did, we looked at this a couple of years ago, but it has been helpful with all of this. So
And that's my request.
so it's
Just so I
been
know
helpful.
and people
Yeah.
know when they get it, what happens next if I don't.
So I tell you one thing we can do, and this has been helpful for us to look real thoroughly, and the depth of which we looked at it. Tim got everything, Grant looked at it, I looked at it, we all three looked at it together, and made some different adjustments and what I think is gonna make it better. I think overall, our enforcement efforts are very successful, but we also want to be sensitive, to the things that you were talking about. But it is difficult in the enforcement. At the end of the day, we're wanting full enforcement of all that whole book. And it is difficult for everybody to understand what those things are. But that's why when we're initiating something, we don't want to be inflexible. We want to, we just want to educate at the very first and get resolution. And then if it proceeds, and of course, things get more firm. I think on your situation, it didn't progress to that. It was just the initial letter. There was never a threat of the citation. There would have eventually could have been, but everything got resolved. But this has been helpful. I think certainly we'll take under consideration, not that we can do it with time constraints. We can't do it necessarily here in the next couple of months, but I think it's very possible working with our information officer with the city. Maybe we could do something on our website that would give at least, it can't explain everything, but might give a little bit more of an overview that maybe we can link with our letters. When we send our letters out, maybe we'll have a little scan code or something that you can scan that can go to that informational thing. It
That's
says,
cool.
oh, I've been cited. What is that process? And I think that might help. If there had been a barcode on your thing that you could have just scanned with your phone, and then it could have popped up our website, and then there could have been a little simple thing that didn't go super detailed, but explained, oh, I've been cited, what's next? And then kind of explain that. I think that could be helpful.
I think so. Do you think
And
that would help?
so
That's all I'm asking
Okay.
for, is just for that,
I think
it to be better explained in a letter of what is going to happen, what's not going to happen, and why.
Okay.
Okay.
That's good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, any more discussion on the planning notification process?
No, I thought it was handled very well.
Okay, well, we don't have any new business on the agenda, but I think next month we could bring up the liaison votes for committee members,
And-
especially the BOMA.
And hopefully we'll find out through state statutes or through Lance Ray what the laws require before we go making a bunch of noise about nothing or figuring it out.
Good time to
Absolutely.
discuss all that.
Absolutely. It's just an inquiry.
That's a good one though.
All right.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second
Okay,
that.
yes. Keith, thank you. Amanda, appreciate you being here today. JP, thank you very much.
Good.
And this meeting is adjourned.
All right.